With the Early Morning PJ podcast. I'm here with Jacob Scholl. Jacob actually is coming off a really good wrestling season, so I just want to give him a shout out for that. We also have our good friend Jason Weaver with us today. He's taking over as kind of like our manager.
Social media manager. He
runs a lot of our social media accounts. He takes care of a lot of our editing and things like that. So,
shout out to Jason.
Yeah, exactly. To give you guys kind of like a rundown of what we're going to be discussing today, our first topic of conversation is going to be finishing Jacob's mock draft. If you weren't with us last week, we actually got through the first 10 picks of his mock draft last week, I think it was the third episode. So we're going to finish that first round, and then we're going to get into a lot of the NFL trade rumors and trades that have actually just occurred this week. Carson Wentz
we know who that is.
Yep, Carson Wentz being at the top of that list, obviously. And then we're going to get into some NBA talk. We're going to switch sports a little bit and discuss some of the NBA weekly things that have happened this week, along with some of the MVP talk and Joel Embiid mainly.
How about the Heat beating the Lakers?
The Heat are coming off a really good week. And then we're going to go into our call-in session. So how that's going to work, guys, is Jason is going to go live on our Instagram account about 5 minutes before we get into that call-in session. And that's going to be kind of like a 5-minute warning. And then you guys can call in as soon as those 5 minutes are up, obviously. And then our last 20 minutes of the day, we're going to kind of go over some of your guys' questions that you have given us on Instagram. We're going to answer those for you. So, like I said, our first topic of conversation is going to be finishing Jacob's mock draft. So let me pull that up real quick. All right, so like I said, we went over the first 10 picks last week, but if you weren't with us, I'm just going to kind of give you guys a rundown of what we were discussing. So we have the Jaguars taking Trevor Lawrence with the first overall pick. If you weren't with us last week, we kind of discussed maybe the possibility of Justin Fields being that first pick as well.
Rumor is some teams have Zach Wilson over him too.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
I don't either.
I think that's a smokescreen.
I think a lot of people are blowing smoke around Zach Wilson. But anyways, his number 2 pick, he had the Jets taking Justin Fields. Number 3, he had the Dolphins, which is his own team, taking Penei Sewell.
Please.
Yep. And then with the 4th pick, he had the Falcons taking Zach Wilson, the QB from BYU. The 5th pick, he had the Bengals taking Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida. With the 6th pick, he had my team, the Eagles, taking Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU, who opted out last year. With the number 7th pick, he had the Detroit Lions taking Devontae Smith, wide receiver out of Alabama, obviously one of the best players, if not the best player in this draft class. The 8th pick, the Carolina Panthers, he had Micah Parsons going to the Carolina Panthers, linebacker out of Penn State, really good player.
Fast.
Very fast, very quick player. Obviously, I kind of got to watch him before he went to Penn State.
Yeah.
He went to Harrisburg High School.
Played defensive end there.
Yeah, and running back. And
he has that versatility too in the NFL. He could play all over.
He's that kind of linebacker that is just that athletic, that can play anywhere on the field. And then with the 9th pick, he had the Denver Broncos taking Caleb Farley, cornerback out of Virginia Tech. And then with the 10th pick, he had the Dallas Cowboys taking Patrick Surtain out of Alabama, cornerback. So those were all the picks we went over last week. Now we're going to get into the 11th pick, the New York Giants taking Kwity Paye, an edge defender out of University of Michigan.
I think we discussed this last week. I like what Paye brings just because of his upside and his athleticism, and he's had constant production over his college career. It's not like someone you'll see later like Rousseau where he had 1 year, he was great. Paye's been consistent throughout his career, and I think he fits well with the Giants. They need pass rush.
I agree. As we play them twice a year, obviously, as them being a division opponent, it is kind of clear to see that they struggle on the defensive side of the ball with every position other than maybe corner. Their defensive backs are pretty good.
I like their defense.
I do.
Except
I like their defense.
I don't like they have 3 good D linemen, but they're all good at stopping the run. They don't get a rush, and they have no one out on the edge, no linebackers. Secondary solid.
Yep. And you know what? Like he said, there's really no rush there. That's why I think Kwity Paye can help him. The next pick, you have Trey Lance, quarterback from North Dakota State. You have him going 12th overall to the 49ers.
I think with this pick, I think he fits really well with Kyle Shanahan and his offense. I mean, he has a strong arm. He's accurate short, mobile, good at making reads in the running game, pulling it, when to hand it off. I think he needs a lot of work. He really does.
There's not really a better place you can go to
No.
for QB development because they don't throw the ball as much. You're going to have an opportunity to develop there and be the starter.
Without making some of the mistakes that other quarterbacks do.
Exactly. They like to run the ball there, and obviously Trey Lance, as a rookie, would need some development, especially coming from North Dakota State.
And if you look at Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, next year they can release him and not lose any money out on that. So if they want to move on from Garoppolo, at least have that option. Maybe trade Garoppolo for whatever they'd get for him. I think that's the pick.
Yep. All right. And then you have Rashawn Slater, offensive lineman from Northwestern. You have him going 13th overall to the Chargers.
I mean, you look at the Chargers, who'd they take in the first round last year? Herbert. They need to protect him.
Yep.
Slater's one guy that can, play any position on the offensive line, really. They need help at tackle. They need help at guard. Wherever they need him, he can play.
I agree. And like you said, Herbert, rookie last year, won Rookie of the Year. That was kind of controversial with Justin Jefferson, as we talked about last week. But he had a really good year, and there's no way around it. I mean, he was
set rookie records.
Yep, set rookie records, and he wasn't throwing. He had Keenan Allen, who is a top 10 receiver, arguably, in my opinion, but he was in and out of the lineup. So he really didn't have
in and out in the lineup.
Yep, exactly. He really didn't have those kind of weapons that you would want your rookie to have. And like you said, their offensive line definitely needs some help. And then with the 14th pick, you got the Minnesota Vikings taking Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech.
I love Christian Darrisaw. He's big, he's strong, he's aggressive, but he's not overly aggressive. He's really good protecting in the pass game, really good run blocking. I don't think he has a lot of weaknesses. If it wasn't for Slater having that versatility, I'd have Darrisaw over Slater pretty easy.
Okay. With the 15th pick, you got New England Patriots taking Jalen Waddle, wide receiver out of Alabama. So I kind of want to touch on this pick real quick. So Jalen Waddle, Jacob can, I think, second this. He was arguably the best player in college football before he broke his ankle this year. In terms of athleticism,
He's still got it, I think.
Yeah, he was he was. Like, I always talk about Devontae Smith and how good of a player he is, how generational his talents are. You're not going to find very many people like Devontae Smith. But before Jalen Waddle got hurt, that's what people were saying about him.
He was that.
He was that guy. Like I said last week, I didn't hear much about Devontae Smith before Waddle got hurt because as soon as he left the lineup, Devontae Smith became that role player and saw many of the targets that Jalen Waddle was. And I think Jalen Waddle, if he hasn't really shown to me, he's played one game since he broke his ankle. To me, that's not enough to tell you if he's going to be fine. If he's going to be fine, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, he's probably still rehabbing. He's getting ready for the NFL, but we'll see. I wouldn't take a chance on him over Devontae Smith.
Well, I mean, you look at the Patriots and their offense last year. I mean, they had no weapons. I mean, Jacoby Myers as your number one receiver is not going to cut it in any way. So,
okay,
I mean, they need help.
Yep. All right, the 16th pick, you got the Cardinals taking Christian Barmore, D lineman out of Alabama.
I mean, you look at the Cardinals, their offense should be fine. I mean, it wasn't that good last year, but talent-wise, it's good. And they don't really have much on the defense, especially interior D linemen. There's not much there.
I agree with that. They definitely need to go target some D-line help, and whether that's the draft or free agency. Moving on to the 17th pick, you got the Oakland Raiders selecting Craig Rousseau.
Rousseau?
Miami. Yeah.
My boy.
Edge out of Miami. So I'm going to let Jacob talk about this pick, and then I'm going to give my opinion on it.
I mean, even as a Miami fan, I had to put Paye above him at 11. But Rousseau is very lanky, he is the prototypical build for his position. You know, he could be a defensive end, outside linebacker, wherever you need him. And he had 1 year, you know, he was second to only Chase Young in the nation in sacks. You've seen the potential, but can he be consistent? I don't know.
Rousseau is very unique in terms of his ability to defend the block. He has many different techniques that he uses. I really like watching him play because he is so quick off the line that that is probably the biggest strength for me that any D lineman can have. With that being said, I'm a pick guy. I really like Patrick Jones and Rashad Weaver. I'm not saying that those two are better than anybody in the draft. I really think Rousseau is probably the best edge in the draft. But I also, with that being said, I think Rashad Weaver and Patrick Jones out of Pittsburgh share those same kind of qualities as him and have the potential to be first-round picks. So, yeah, but that's my opinion on it. With that being said, we're going to move on now. You now have your team, the Dolphins, selecting Jeremiah
Owusu-Koramoah.
Yep, you're going to have to pronounce that. Linebacker from Notre Dame.
I mean, he's almost a safety. I mean, he's 215 pounds, but he is fast. And on the other side of Jerome Baker for us, inside at middle linebacker, we don't have much. Landon Roberts played there last year. He tore his ACL, and he's going to be a free agent. I don't know if it's Cameron Grugier-Hill. I don't know if he's the move there. Really, that's the last piece that we need on our defense for it to be complete, in my opinion.
Okay. With the 19th pick, you got the Washington football team selecting Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota.
I love Bateman. You know, he's a big receiver, 6'1", 6'2", opposite of Terry McLaurin, who's more of a speed guy after the catch. You know, he'll make you miss good routes. Bateman goes up and gets the football, and they need that. I mean,
I agree. And that, as an Eagles fan, obviously we discuss this with the Giants. We play them twice a year. They're in our division. McLaurin has a day every single time we play against him. It turns into, he gets off to a little bit of a slow start in the first quarter, and then he starts progressing. He starts seeing more targets, and he takes off. He always plays well against us, and pairing him up with a big target is kind of scary. With that being said, we're going to move on to the 20th pick. You got the Chicago Bears selecting Taven Jenkins, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State.
I mean, Tevin Jenkins is probably the best run-blocking tackle outside of Penei Sewell. He is big. He is physical. And you look at the Bears system, I mean, it's become a power run system with David Montgomery and all those guys, mostly run. They need help at right tackle. I think he's the pick.
Okay. With the 21st pick, you got Indianapolis, the Colts selecting Elijah Vera Tucker, offensive lineman from USC.
I mean, really, this comes down to your left tackle, Anthony Costanzo, retires. You need someone. That's the end of the story there.
Yep. With the 22nd pick, you got Tennessee selecting Jason Oweh, edge rusher from Penn State.
The Titans were last in the league in sacks last year. Clowney's a free agent. It's pretty clear where they need to go. Who the guy is a bit more up for debate, but I think Oweh fits well in their system.
I think Clowney should retire.
I'm not a big Clowney fan.
I think he's a very, very active and great player when he's healthy, but that never seems to be the case. He's always hurt. He's never really on the field much, and that's why these teams, these past couple of years, he's only been able to find 1-year contracts.
And he was billed as this great pass rusher. I mean, he's really become a run stopper.
Yeah, exactly. With the 23rd pick, you got the Jets selecting J.C. Horn, cornerback from South Carolina.
I mean, they need help everywhere, And I think you go best player available here for your team, and I think that's J.C. Horn. He has the potential to be I mean, if you told me in 3 years J.C. Horn was the best corner from this draft, I would not be surprised.
Right. Okay. 24th pick, you got Pittsburgh selecting Alex Leatherwood, offensive tackle from Alabama.
Rumor is Villanueva is not coming back. They needed O-line help anyways. I mean, I think you got to get Ben or whoever. I mean, rumor is it might not be Ben. Some protection and some. I mean, they were last in rushing yards.
Right.
You need help on the O-line.
They definitely do. 25th, you got Jacksonville taking Trevon Moehrig, safety from TCU.
I think he's the best safety in the draft class. Their safeties are bad. Like, I don't even know who they are.
Yeah, I agree.
They need help in the secondary. They need help just about everywhere. But I think Moehrig has potential to be one of the better safeties in the league.
26th pick, you got Cleveland taking Nick Bolton, linebacker from Missouri.
I mean, this had to be a defensive pick, and I think linebacker is where it has to be.
The Cleveland needs linebackers.
Yeah,
There's no way
yeah.
around that.
They need J.J. Watt, too.
Yep. 27th pick, you got Baltimore selecting Wyatt Davis, offensive guard from Ohio State.
They need offensive line help, especially inside, to help out their run. I mean, they're a run-first team. They have led the league in rushing yards the past 3 years. Keep it going.
Yep. 28th, you got the Saints taking Kadarius Toney, wide receiver from Florida.
I love Kadarius Toney.
I do too.
After the catch, he is
Must-see TV.
He'll probably be the best after-catch receiver purely on after-catch in the league next year.
I watched him play one game, and it was the SEC championship against Alabama, and they couldn't cover him.
No,
and that was probably the most Alabama. I said last week that their defense gave up a lot of points. They weren't like
a typical
Alabama defense, but they were still good.
Yeah,
that's still a solid unit. And the fact that he was able to kind of detach them the way that he did, he's so fast and quick. And like you said, he's kind of like must-see TV when he has the ball in his hands. When he gets the ball in his hands after the catch. 29th, you got the Green Bay Packers selecting Rondale Moore, wide receiver from Purdue.
They were supposed to take a receiver last year, and that is not the route they went. They took another quarterback to learn behind Aaron Rodgers. He needs some help. I don't know if Marquez Valdez-Scantling's the answer besides Devontae Adams. And, yeah.
Okay. 30th, you got Buffalo selecting Jalen Phillips, edge rusher from Miami.
Phillips is a long story. Number one recruit in his class, went to UCLA, got a bunch of concussions, retired, came back, transferred to Miami, and he had a great season with us. If he can stay healthy, if he can, stay committed to football, he has a potential to be one of the best defensive ends in the league, period.
They had a really good edge unit this year. Miami did. Mm-hmm. So I agree with that. 31st, you got the Chiefs selecting Carlos Basham, edge rusher from Wake Forest.
Basham's big. He's strong. He's good in the run game. And you look at the Super Bowl, mostly the story was the Buccaneers pressuring Mahomes, but you also have to look at the Chiefs not pressuring Brady. And I think they need help there.
Okay. And then with the 32nd pick, this is the last pick that we're going to be discussing today. This concludes our first round. But you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting Sam Cosmi, offensive tackle from Texas.
I think you got to protect Brady. I mean, you're in win now mode. You got Tristan Wirfs, who's one of the best tackles in the league. Get someone on the other side of him.
I agree with that. And I really, like we said, we spoke about last week how Brady can really play for a longer, much longer after this, if he gets the right offensive line. They have some young talent on that offensive line right now, like Tristan Wirfs. You get somebody to play alongside of him, pair them up with Jensen. You're setting yourself up for success, especially with number 12 back there. And if you can protect him, there's really not much any team can do to stop that with the kind of weapons that they have.
And I think Penn State fans would like the 33rd pick. Read that one.
All right, we'll touch on the 33rd pick, but Jacksonville, this is going to be like kind of like a cliffhanger for next week.
Yeah.
You got Jacksonville selecting Pat Freiermuth, tight end from Penn State.
All the Penn State fans love him. That's for you guys right
All
there.
right. All right, so now we're going to be switching over to our conversation about the trade of Wentz and then some more trade rumors along with that. But our main topic of conversation today is going to be Carson Wentz. So if you guys haven't heard the news, Carson Wentz was traded, I believe it was Thursday. He was traded Thursday to the Indianapolis Colts in exchange for a 2021 third-round pick. So this year's draft, a third-round pick. Next year, a conditional first-round pick. So that means, what that means is that if Carson Wentz plays 75% of his games in a Colts uniform next year, the Eagles will get a first-round pick. Or if Carson Wentz plays at least 70% of his games next year and the Colts make the playoffs, the Eagles would also get that first-round pick. So as an Eagles fan myself, I'm really hoping Carson Wentz can stay healthy, but that really seems to be an issue for him. I love Carson Wentz. The biggest knock on him in an Eagles uniform is that he could never stay healthy. He couldn't. He couldn't escape the pocket because he's not known for being that mobile. In college, he was because he wasn't seeing the kind of edge rushers he was in the NFL. So when teams learned how to contain him, he became a pocket passer. And when he doesn't have great weapons, you can't expect him to be a great Hall of Fame quarterback. He had a really good year in 2017. We talked about that last week a little bit. But he was my favorite player for 5 years now in an Eagles uniform. Obviously, you have the leader of your team, and when he wasn't able to get along with the front office and the veterans in the locker room, that led to some disputes and some controversy, and that led to ultimately him being traded, in my opinion. They brought Hurts in last year. Obviously, that probably had a lot to do with him and his relationship with Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson. But at the same time, it's your job to lose, you know? Mm-hmm. And when you... I'll let Jacob talk about this in a second, but this is my own team, so I really...
Yeah, you got the go.
I just want to talk about, how much he meant to the city. I tweeted this a couple days ago, and for you guys that haven't seen it yet, I'm going to read it. Let me pull it up real quick. But this is something this is kind of my thank you. Not really a thank you to Carson Wentz, but just kind of like a why were you traded kind of thing. I guess I don't really know. But here's what I said. So I said you will hear more from me about this Wentz trade on the podcast this week, which obviously we are discussing right now. But just a quick thought before then. Wentz meant more to the city than any athlete has in a long time. He's one of the best athletes to come through Philly as not just an athlete, but in the community. The fact that he won it out as bad as he did shows a lot about how bad the franchise has been ran over these last 2 years. Howie Roseman deserves to be fired. And I don't know how, but out of Wentz, Doug Peterson, and Howie Roseman is somehow the last one standing. Tune in on Sunday for more, and obviously it's Sunday, so you guys are going to hear more. But like I said, I really appreciate everything Carson Wentz did for the city of Philly. He was so beloved in the city, both on and off the field, that I don't think anybody had it out for him. You know what I'm saying? Howie Roseman should be fired, and it's as simple as that. I love Carson Wentz, but like I said, I can't stand when there's cancers created in the locker room, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. And
last year he played really bad. Obviously, he led the league in turnovers before he was pulled in. I believe it was week 12 against Green Bay, maybe week 11. So it was his job to lose for 11 weeks of the season. When you're leading the league in turnovers and you're dead last in QBR, you deserve to be benched. And I don't care if that's for a guy like Josh McCown, who was our backup last year. I don't even care if that's from a rookie, Jalen Hurts, like it actually was. Like, what happened? But at the same time, it was your job to lose. You lost a job. Don't create a cancer in the locker room.
Yeah.
And when you create a distraction and your team is literally in a playoff hunt, it doesn't look good. So I really think it was probably best for both parties to part ways. But with that being said, I think there was a way to get some more for him, other than the fact that they're eating his salary. We're just paying off his signing bonuses, which is about $30 million.
That's gonna hurt.
It really hurts, and it sucks. But at the same time, it's finally over. I mean, I'm so tired of hearing, it sucks when your own team is that bad of a franchise to which you're being talked about every day for being clowned on. Like, you're being joked about every single day because your front office can't get a hold of things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what's so frustrating about this. And it's horrible that we weren't able to work in. If you would have told me right after the Super Bowl that in 3 years, Carson Wentz would be traded, Doug Peterson would be fired, there would be no Nick Foles or anybody from that team really remaining.
Yeah, I think this is really the end of the Super Bowl.
I do too, and I think you hear people all the time say about how the Eagles are riding a Super Bowl high or about this or that. It's 2021, not 2017, and this and that. And I agree with that to a certain extent. A lot of those same guys are still playing on the team today. They just can't seem to get a hold of the locker room.
Get a hold of their injuries either.
Yeah, they're always hurt. They're getting older, which is really hurting us. But at the same time, they have the potential to be a pretty good team. You know what I'm saying? They shouldn't have been 4-11-1 last year. And I don't want to be like kicking a man when it's down when it comes to Carson Wentz. But if Jalen Hurts would have started the season, who knows what would have happened? We probably wouldn't have ended up 4-11-1. You know what I'm saying? So
I don't think it's such a bad thing that happened, though. I mean, realistically, even if you made the playoffs, you weren't beating Tampa Bay. And I think going 4-11-1 let your front office realize that there needed to be some change. And that's a start. I mean...
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, as a fan, it sucked that we were 4-11-1, but it made a lot of people open their eyes. It opened a lot of people's eyes, especially when it comes to the front office, which, like you touched on, isn't such a bad thing. So we'll see what they do in the draft. I really like the new guy, Sirianni, that we brought in. I like some of the coaching staff that he also brought with him. We'll see what happens in terms of the draft. I really hope that they don't screw it up like they did last year. But there's really no saying when it comes to Howie Roseman. You could be thinking that they're getting Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase, and they're somehow going to end up reaching for a guy that should have been taken in the second round. So that's exactly what happened last year. We had the 21st pick and selected Rager,
yeah.
who was his peak, who at his peak was probably a late second round pick, in my opinion. He's a fast guy, but he's not better than Justin Jefferson or Laviska Shenault or a lot of those guys that were taken late in the draft. So, other than that's my opinion on the Wentz trade. I'm really hoping, obviously, that he stays healthy enough for us to get that that first round pick next year.
I think it's going to be a first round pick.
I do too. Somehow he's going to turn into some all pro in Indianapolis when
it happens.
Literally. Of course it does, because he's coming into a whole different scheme, and he's not going to be dropping back 40 times a game.
Yeah, I mean the Colts system.
They like to run the football, and they have the personnel to do that. They have the best offensive line in football. They have Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, who could possibly be backed by Marlon Mack if he resigns with them. But like that's a pretty good backfield running behind the best offensive line in the league. So we'll see what happens. I wish Carson the best, but it sucks to see him go. You know what I'm saying?
I think it worked out well for both teams. You guys get a third and what's probably going to be a first, even if it isn't, it's going to be a second. The Colts get a quarterback who they can comfortably play in Reich's system over there in Indianapolis. I think it'll work out for both teams.
I agree. I hope it does. And like I said, he brought some of his staff, Sirianni did, over to Philly. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe that attracts some of the free agents that the Colts have this year. I'm hoping that attracts them to Philly. Xavier Rhodes being one of them. I really like Xavier Rhodes, but we'll see. So now we're going to start talking about, Jacob brought this up to me earlier. I didn't even hear about this, but we're going to talk about
Some
the
Deshaun
Panthers
Watson
and Deshaun
rumors.
Watson. So I'm going to let Jacob handle this.
Well, there's rumor that Watson might be going to Carolina for 3 first-round picks and Christian McCaffrey. And I'll get your thoughts on that.
Christian McCaffrey is arguably the best athlete in the league. And you can tell me, last week you said running back is the most replaceable position.
It is.
I don't buy that, especially when it comes to guys that are as athletic as Christian McCaffrey. When you are good enough to be considered the best threat out of the backfield, both rushing and receiving, there's no replacing that kind of talent. Maybe you can replace it with guys like Saquon, but no other guy in the league is going to be close to Christian McCaffrey when it comes to athleticism. He is that good. He is not replaceable in my opinion. He was all that they had last year when he was healthy. If you watch the first game he came back against Kansas City, he tore it up against a really good defense in his first game back in like 6 weeks. He was really, like, it really would benefit both teams in my opinion. Houston would be getting McCaffrey and Bridgewater, who I don't think is even average at this point.
Yeah, I think he's below average.
I don't think he's like, yeah, I don't even know why Carolina considered bringing him in.
He was good with the Saints the year
but
before.
he
that.
wasn't like he played 4 games when Breeze got hurt. He wasn't.
Bridge quarterback. That's why his name's Bridgewater.
He didn't play a whole season. It wasn't like he was. The last time he was even good was when he was a starter in Minnesota.
He was really good with Minnesota.
And then he tore his ACL, and you never heard of him again. And when you did, he was backing up Drew Brees in New Orleans last year, and he only played 4 games. Yeah, he played really good in those 4 games, but you got to think of the Saints compared to the Panthers. The Saints have Kamara and Michael Thomas, who led the league last year in receiving yards. Like he wasn't playing with a bunch of scrubs like he was in Carolina. And those guys aren't scrubs.
I wouldn't call
DJ Moore and
Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel. I wouldn't call them
They're
scrubs.
not scrubs, but they can't ever.
Not on the same level.
You can't even get him the ball because he's getting sacked in 2 seconds. Their offensive line is so bad that they don't even give him a chance to be good. So I really think he was put in a tough situation, but at the same time, I think he's below average. I don't think he's an average quarterback at all by any means. So I really think it would probably be a win-win in terms of McCaffrey and Watson, but Carolina would be getting a guy that's mobile enough to
ignore those offensive line
and
woes.
buy time to throw the ball to guys like DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel. And I think Mike Davis would be a pretty good.
Yeah, I mean that's where I'm coming from with this. I think that's a win for Carolina, pretty clear. I think you get a top 5 quarterback, an elite quarterback who's 25 years old. Mike Davis played fine last year. Look, he's not McCaffrey. He will never be McCaffrey. A healthy McCaffrey is the best running back in the league. But Mike Davis did a good enough job to be a solid starting running back. I mean, that's the truth. He's not McCaffrey, but you don't need McCaffrey when you have Watson. When you have that dynamic of a player at quarterback, he doesn't need a running back that's that elite. I think going to Houston, I think McCaffrey would do well there. The 3 first-round picks would help.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what makes the trade, is the picks. But, like, people just devalue, they don't value the picks enough.
the ninth overall pick. That's what that is this
yeah,
year.
exactly. And I was we talked about Wentz earlier. I was upset because we didn't get anybody. We just got picks. But thinking about it, we got some pretty good picks.
Yeah.
I mean, next year's draft class is going to be pretty good in terms of like a first round pick. I think we're fine. I really do. And they're eating his salary. We're just eating his signing bonuses. So in terms of money and picks, I think we worked out fine. I would have liked to see us maybe get somebody that's kind of below the radar when it comes to like receiver, like Zach Pascal.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't say Pittman Jr. They probably wouldn't trade him considering he had a really good year last year. And he's really young. But like Pascal is kind of like, he's been in the league for a little while now.
Paris Campbell.
Yeah, Paris Campbell. And like I said, defensively, maybe we could have stolen somebody.
Kenny Moore.
But at the same time, they have a couple free agents that I think could possibly land in Philly, considering we brought their defensive coordinator, who was their D-backs coach last year. He's now our defense coordinator. Sirianni, who was the offensive coordinator in Indianapolis last year, obviously, he's now our head coach. And we brought some of their like managers and like equipment guys over as well, which sometimes helps, but not all the time. But so yeah, that's really what's happening in free agency or trades. Now we're gonna get into some free agency. J.J. Watt. It's interesting. It's interesting that they cut him in the first place.
I think it was a move out of respect. I think Watt wanted to choose where he went, and he's the greatest Houston Texan of all time. I mean,
I agree.
I think that was a respect move, and that's class.
Yep.
In an organization that hasn't exactly had much of that in the past few years under Bill O'Brien, I think that was a good move.
I agree with that, and sometimes it's hard to let those kind of guys go, but at the same time, their franchise is going down under.
Like hardcore.
Yeah, they are not looking up by any means. So I really would love to see Watt get a ring. So I'm hoping he goes to a contender. I would say the Eagles, but they're not a contender at this point. They're kind of rebuilding.
You guys have a good D-line anyways. That's not the
exactly.
issue.
And he's getting older. He's probably around the same age as
I think he's 32.
Graham. They're probably around the same age, Brandon Graham and him. They're both getting older. They both play the same position. It's probably not going to be the best fit for him. I really could see him going to Pittsburgh and playing with his two brothers, especially considering that Bud Dupree's a free agent. And I think J.J. Watt beats out Bud Dupree.
Yeah. They do play a bit different positions, but
and Bud Dupree's younger.
See how you make that work.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a bit of an awkward fit in Pittsburgh based on the scheme. But
well, I do too, but that's
it's
where
still
he would want to go.
Yeah.
I mean, like, realistically, if you had a chance to go play for a contender that has two of your brothers on it, why wouldn't you take that opportunity?
Cleveland would be interesting.
I've heard Cleveland.
Him and Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I've heard Cleveland a lot. I really would like to see how he would fit in with Myles Garrett, and that's a team that is a contender. In my opinion, they're a contender. If they can stay healthy. Last year in the playoffs, they weren't healthy. They didn't have any offensive linemen. They brought in a guy that Baker Mayfield didn't even know his name. They had to bring him in late in the game to play. I think he was a guard. They brought him in. Like, they don't have much depth. They're very good when healthy, but they don't have much depth other than that. But they're still a really good team.
And Olivier Vernon's going to be a free agent.
Yeah.
They need to find another D-end.
Yeah, I really think he would pair well with Myles Garrett, obviously. Those are probably two of the best pass rushers in the league at this point in time. So it's going to be interesting to see where he lands. I really do like J.J. Watt.
He'd come down to South Beach, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I think any NFL fan...
32 teams should be making a call to J.J. Watt.
I was just about to say that. And I think any NFL fan...
Well, 31. It's not the Texans,
Houston.
but...
But I think any NFL fan would be ecstatic to see him sign with their team. So, with that being said, that kind of concludes our free agency talk. We're going to kind of get into some weekly NBA conversations. So, Jacob, you're a Heat fan. I want to hear what your thoughts are on the Heat.
Well, we're back, baby. I mean, you look at it. Yeah, here we go. Everyone has been crapping on the Heat this year. We've been hurt. That's the end of the story. Jimmy's been out. Hero's been out. Nunn's been out. Robinson's been out. Bam missed 2 games. We're back.
You can say we're back all you want, but it doesn't change the fact that my Sixers are the 4th best team in the NBA, and they're the first team in the Eastern.
Who was the first team in the East last year?
Not us.
It was the Bucks.
Yeah,
and we beat them in 5 games in the playoffs.
Okay, that doesn't mean anything. I think we're better than the Bucks this year. We got Joel Embiid, who's probably going to win MVP this year.
Could win MVP.
If he doesn't win MVP, and if he stays out, listen, if he stays healthy the whole year, which is a question mark a majority of the time.
It always is.
If he can stay healthy all year, he's averaging over 30 points a game. That's unheard of when it comes to a 7-footer. He is that good. He just dropped 50 on the Bulls. And without Ben, obviously Ben Simmons was out that game. But this Joel Embiid there's nobody that can compare to. You always hear LeBron in the conversation for MVP. Giannis, obviously. We'll see who else.
Someone from Brooklyn.
Jokic. Yeah, somebody, either Harden, Irving, or
probably not
KD.
Irving, but
one of those 3 will probably be in the conversation. But when it comes to, it's so obvious to see that he is what carries the team.
Yeah.
When he is out, they find a way they'll find a way to stay in the game. But when it gets late into the game,
almost the mirror image thing happens with the Heat and Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, they'll find ways to stay in the game, and especially if Simmons plays. If Simmons is in the lineup, they definitely find a way to either win or stay in the game until late. Fourth quarter, when it starts to get into crunch time, that's when they miss Joel Embiid's rebounding, his ability to get bucket whenever. That's really when they need him most, and it's so clear to see that they need him. They absolutely need him if they want to go anywhere in the playoffs. So we'll see. I respect LeBron. I love LeBron. He is probably my all-time favorite player. But at the same time, he is getting older. The only thing LeBron has on Embiid at this point is age. It is. I saw a tweet earlier, I think it was yesterday. I'm going to let you talk while I'm trying to find this tweet. I want to hear more about the Heat. I want to hear more about your thoughts on Jimmy Butler and what he should be.
What he means to the entire Heat.
Yeah, I want to hear what your thoughts are.
First of all, shout out to Kendrick Nunn dropping 27 against the Lakers. We needed that one. I think that one could be a turning point in our season. Really, it comes down to Jimmy Butler playing or not. The entire offense runs through him. It's nice to have guys like Bam and Nunn and Hero, but really the scoring comes from Jimmy, and the entire offense is played through him driving to the rim, kicking it out to one of our shooters, dropping it off to Bam, whatever.
Yeah. All right, so I found the tweet. So it says Joel Embiid. This is Joel Embiid compared to LeBron this year per game. Joel Embiid is beating him in points per game, rebounds per game, field goal percentage, free throw percentage, 3-point percentage, steals, blocks, offensive rating, defensive rating, and win shares per 48. I believe that's minutes. So
yeah, he's the front runner right now, but
there's no way
he's not a lock for MVP.
I'm not saying he's a lock because there's probably I really can't. I hate to say this, but
will he play however many games? I don't know. It's not 82.
He hasn't already. He's already missed games.
Yeah.
It's just gonna come down to where they're at the end of the regular season because it's a regular season award. So it's gonna come down to okay, are they the 1 seed? Where are they at seeding wise? What's their record? and obviously LeBron and the Lakers may finish ahead of him in record, but at the same time, that doesn't make LeBron better than Embiid by any means. I just it's when he hits that he hits that fadeaway.
Oh, that fadeaway was tough.
My gosh, dude! Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't get any better than that. He is 7 foot tall. Who else is 7 foot tall shooting like that?
Dirk.
He doesn't. You know what? Who?
Dirk.
Okay, but yeah, exactly.
Chris
He's a Hall of
Stapps.
Famer. He's a Hall of Famer. Dirk Nowitzki's a Hall of Famer.
I mean, that was a nice move, but that's becoming commonplace.
But nobody can guard that. You're
No.
not going to find anybody in the league that can guard a
Honestly,
7 foot.
honestly, if there's anyone in the league that I would put on that, it'd be Bam. To be honest with you,
I'm going to say.
anyone in the league.
I'm going to tell you why Joel Embiid is playing the way that he is. First of all, he is getting help. Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, and Danny
Yeah,
Green.
Harris is finally coming around.
Danny Green is probably the worst of the five, but they got Shake Milton and these guys that are coming off the bench. They're helping Joel in terms of shooting. They can actually shoot the ball.
Yeah, you guys
So-
finally have shooting
Yeah,
instead of having
exactly.
5 slashers on
So
the
when
court.
the double team Embiid, that's making Embiid like, okay, Embiid is thinking to himself, I don't have to do everything. And there was a point in time, aka last year, that Embiid felt like he had to do it all. Simmons couldn't shoot. Harris had a terrible year last year, and they didn't. Their other two starters couldn't. They didn't.
Richardson had a bad
They weren't
year.
relevant.
As much as I love
Richardson
Richardson.
sucked.
As
dude.
much as I love Richardson, he was bad last
They
year.
weren't relevant at all. Those other two starters. It was Ben, Harris, and Embiid. Ben couldn't shoot. Harris had a terrible year. So Embiid was thinking to himself, okay, I have to do it all. He was pulling up from three with like a contended three from 30 some feet away. This year, he's playing on the block. He's not and when the double team comes, he has the confidence in the guys like Harris, who's having a great year. Seth Curry.
You can't
Seth
double
Curry.
from Curry.
Danny Green. Those guys are actually contributing and shooting. So Embiid will get the ball on the block. If the double team comes, he kicks it out for a three for Seth Curry. If it doesn't come, he's taking that guy to the rack. And that's what's making him so unstoppable this year. Seth Curry was a huge
Addition. Yeah.
addition, and we won
Just
that
shooting
trade. We
in
won that
general.
trade by a mile. It was so clear to see from the first game on who won that trade. Between Richardson
And Seth Curry. And the Mavs are struggling.
Yep, exactly. The Mavs, dude, I feel so bad for Luka, bro. He's dropping 40 a night and they're losing.
Yeah, Porzingis is not the same Porzingis. I mean,
I feel so bad for I really don't like Mark Cuban.
Really?
I
I like
can't stand
Cuban.
him. Did you see that they're not even?
the national anthem.
Yeah.
We won't get into that on the podcast. But
That's BS in my opinion. But I really do think Joel Embiid should win MVP if he's able to stay healthy.
front runner currently, not by a landslide, but
By lanes.
No.
Who's the
You
closest?
LeBron. Someone
LeBron's
from
not
Brooklyn.
doing anything. LeBron averages under 26 minutes a game. He's not playing as much as he used to.
That's they're still first in the league. I mean,
They're third in the league.
all right. Well, everyone
we're
knows.
fourth.
Everyone knows they're the best team in the league.
No,
So
they're
they
not.
Are. They are.
Who?
They are.
By what metric?
By
They
winning the
played
championship
40
last year
okay, that
and
doesn't-
having the same exact team but getting better.
They haven't gotten better, bro. I think
Montrez?
they've gotten worse.
No.
In a 7-game series, do you know how much we played them 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and Harris hit that buzzer beater?
Yeah.
But we were winning by double digits all the way up until the last minute and a half of that game. I think we beat them in a 7-game series, and it's going to be close. It's probably going to come down to 7 games.
The playoffs is always different.
But
than
I
the
think
regular season.
we beat them in 7 games. I could be wrong about that. I love AD. I love LeBron. Those guys are two guys that find a way to win, especially when it comes to
that's
the playoffs.
two. LeBron is a top 5 player. AD is arguably a top 5 player.
Yeah, but at the same time, the way that the Sixers are playing right now, the way that they're surrounding Embiid with shooters, and if they continue to be able to shoot the basketball pretty well, I don't think there's anybody that's going to stop them. Nobody can stop Embiid when he's 1-on-1.
Bam can try.
Okay, and he'll dunk on him.
Nah.
Or he'll hit.
Don't get me started on it. Bam is the best overall defensive center in the NBA. Overall.
No, he's not.
All his talents. Yes, he
Go
is.
look at Embiid. Embiid leads the league in I think Embiid leads the league in defensive rating per center.
Does he?
For
Okay.
center.
I mean, to be fair, when you're playing with guys like Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn and Tyler Hero in your lineup, that's not going to help your defensive rating.
I was going to say he had the best defensive rating in the league, but I don't think that's true because there's some really good.
You look at, I mean, you just look at Bam's ability to do everything at the center position. That's rare.
I love Bam. I think he's good. I really do. I really like his game, but he's not close to Embiid right now.
In terms of offense, no. I think defense, I take Bam. Still.
Other than Embiid, bro, the Sixers is a team. They're fun to watch.
Yeah.
I haven't felt the way I feel about them now. Even last year, they had a similar record last year at this point in the season as they do this year, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same at all. It wasn't. It was the same three guys that you're hearing about this year, but that was their whole team last year. It was Joel Embiid, Harris, and Simmons. And Harris, like I said, had a terrible year last year, so you weren't getting that vibe from him. As compared to this year, he's being considered for an All-Star for the first time in his career. They're really putting together a really good defense. I think last week they were first. I think they may have fell second in defensive rating.
The Bucks.
I can't remember who overtook them, but they lost 2 or 3 games in a row last week, and Embiid didn't play in 2 of them, so it kind of killed their defensive rating. But they play defense, which is really rare these days. Especially, we're gonna talk about the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets have 3 of the best scorers of all time in their starting lineup.
2 of the best scorers of all time. Kyrie's not.
Kyrie
is on a whole lower
He's gonna be a
level.
Hall of Famer, I think.
I think so. Basketball Hall of Fame is also probably the easiest one to get into
But
out of all of them.
Those 3 guys can score at will. Who's playing defense on that team? Nobody. They're giving up 135 points a game.
Yeah.
They're winning because they're outscoring him.
Harden and Durant are good on defense.
I'm gonna say this. Go ahead.
The narrative that James Harden doesn't play defense is garbage. He plays defense. This isn't 2016 with the Rockets. He plays defense. He is athletic enough. He's strong enough. He's a good defender. I mean,
I do like those. I love Kevin Durant. I think he is probably one of the best basketball players to ever live. Jordan, Kobe, LeBron,
Durant's putting himself up there.
But I really do respect those 3's game, but they're not playing defense, and that's going to catch up to them. It is.
Especially in the playoffs. You don't win in the playoffs without defense.
Yep.
End of the story.
They're going to, like I said, they score at will, but they're only winning. They won 5 straight games, I think, in a row. They're winning these games because they're scoring 160 points a game. That's not going to fly in the playoffs when these shots aren't falling, and it's going to come down to crunch time, especially if they were to make the finals. LeBron and some team from the West that I watched the Clippers play the other night, they're putting up as many points.
The Jazz.
Yeah, the Jazz. These are all teams that score at will as well. And this stuff isn't going to fly against these kind of teams in the playoffs. I really would love to see the Sixers beat them in the playoffs. I think it's going to come down to those 2 teams in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Don't count out the Heat. That's all.
I'm not counting the Heat out. I'm not counting.
We were a 5 seed last year in the playoffs.
I'm not counting the Bucks out. I'm not counting anybody.
Oh, I'll count the Bucks out. They're not doing so hot.
Well, they have a decent record. They're obviously more than likely going to make the playoffs with Giannis and them. But
look, when Jrue Holiday is healthy, that team's completely different.
Yeah, exactly. And I love Drew Holiday because
I love Holiday. Yeah.
he's a vet and came from Philly. I also like the Raptors because I like Lowry.
I'm
when
not a
he's
big
not playing
Siakam
the Sixers.
fan.
I hate Lowry when he's playing the Sixers because he's a crybaby and he whines and to the rest. But he's Philly tough. I mean, I like him because
Yeah, Nova boy.
yeah. I do like the Raptors. I like Van Fleet. Siakam kind of gets on my nerves a little bit.
I don't think Siakam's
I don't either.
good.
I think the only thing that made Siakam was Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
And he's been gone.
And the attention, because, I mean, Kawhi Leonard plays the 3, Siakam plays the 4. You kind of have to put the best defender out of those two positions on Leonard. I think that frees up Siakam. I'm not a big Siakam fan.
I'm not either. And I really do. I mean, there's like a new 10-team playoff format that they're trying this year. I believe it's like 8 and 9. No, it's like 7 and 8, and then 9 and 10 play each other for a chance to be the last 2 seeds in the playoffs.
Oh, so it's like a mini tourney?
Yeah. So it's going to be kind of weird. I think the Bulls are going to make the playoffs, man. I really do like the Bulls. They're young. The Sixers played the Bulls the other night, and they beat them because Embiid had 50. But if he didn't, they probably would have lost.
The Hornets could end up...
I do. The Hornets...
LaMelo Ball has changed that. As much as I hate... You're not on Instagram, but my feed is constantly filled up with Bleacher Report, with ESPN, and it's just LaMelo. But he is the best rookie by a country mile.
I don't know about that.
Who's better?
He's probably the best.
He's
but there's
the best.
guys that are coming close.
It's not.
LaMelo
Ball has changed that team.
I'm not saying he hasn't changed the team, but I'm definitely saying, first of all, Tyrese Maxey's pretty good. Has been a pretty good productive rookie. I think Emmanuel Quickley has been a pretty good productive rookie for the Knicks.
He doesn't even start though. That's a shame.
Yeah, but I do like LaMelo. I like the Hornets as a whole. I love Gordon Hayward. I like LaMelo. I like Rozier.
Mm-hmm.
I think those 3.
Graham.
I like Devontae Graham. Yeah, these guys, they're good. And I'll tell you who else I like too. I like the Kings, Sacramento Kings. They got
Fox.
They got that rookie from
Whiteside's there.
Halliburton. Whiteside doesn't play, dude. He doesn't play because they got Rashawn Holmes.
He hasn't been anything since he's been on the Heat.
I never understood why. Like, I honestly, a couple years ago, he was one of the best centers in the league.
I think really he got paid.
Remember when they played the Sixers in the playoffs?
Yeah. 2016 was that?
That was when Whiteside was at his peak.
Yeah.
And at that point in time...
Oh man, don't bring me back to those times. The Dion Waiters, Miami.
I think we played you 2 years in a row.
We only made the playoffs one year. We lost you guys in 5.
Yeah. Because the next year we played the Nets.
Or did we lose to you guys in 6? 5 or 6?
5. You won the first game, and then we swept you.
Oh, gentleman's sweep.
But
yeah, that was not a good Heat team.
I don't know, man. I think you can't count the Celtics either. I obviously think the Celtics are a contender.
Yeah. The rumor is they're hot on the trade block for someone. They want to move around roster
I want
pieces.
us to. You know what? I don't want us to trade for anybody. A couple of weeks ago, if you would have asked me to trade for Beal,
yeah, that's who I want.
Yeah, I would have said yes.
Get Duncan Robinson that out of Miami.
Whoever gets, it's not going to be him. They wouldn't just take him.
Well, yeah, but
it's going to have to be a point guard. He's a point guard.
Beal?
Yeah, we would have to give up Simmons.
I think if somehow you can find a way to keep Bam, Jimmy, and then get Beal, I think that's...
Yeah, well, anybody would love that.
But I think
if there was a way for the Sixers to keep Embiid, Simmons, and Harrison...
I think we have the assets to do that, too. We have Nunn, we have Dragic, we have...
I would trade Danny Green. Danny Green is a great defender, but he can't score. Give me, I don't even know, Bogdanovich. Give me Bogdanovich from the Jazz.
Let Blake Griffin get bought out by the Pistons, and then we're going to scoop him up and sign him.
Blake Griffin's old, bro. He's a
Okay,
scrub.
we could play him 0 minutes in the regular season and then just let him do his thing in the
He's a
playoffs.
scrub.
Imagine the starting lineup of, oh my God, you got Beal, Butler, Bam, you got
Who else did
Nunn,
the
and
Pistons even have? They suck this year.
not Drummond.
Yeah, they
He's
are
in
not good this
Cleveland.
year. They
Is Reggie Jackson still there? I have no idea.
I
have no idea.
I don't think so. I think he's.
Luke Kennard.
Yeah, he might be.
I'm just
there.
naming people. I don't know.
They're so bad this year, but
I think they're the worst team. Are they the worst team in the league? Them or the Wolves?
I believe the Pistons are the worst team in the league. I want to touch on college. I don't know if you watch a lot of college basketball, but Duke, without Jalen
Sucks.
Johnson, Duke sucks. You're right.
Miami beat them.
Jalen Johnson, who is, in my opinion, probably one of the best prospects in actual college ball. Because there's guys.
I have no idea.
There's
who
guys in like the
prospects are.
G League that they call it that
Oh,
like come
yeah,
up
yeah.
into the draft and stuff. But there's like in actual college basketball, I think Jalen Johnson is like a top. I think Jalen Johnson is like a top five player when it comes to college hoops. They knocked off Virginia, who was the seventh ranked team in the nation last year.
Virginia always gets freaking beat because of the way they play. I mean, it's a slow offense. They take control of the game, and if they don't, they lose. That's the end of the story right there.
I don't watch much college basketball. My team sucks.
My team sucks, but we
But,
have Isaiah Wong. I
yeah.
love Isaiah Wong.
Yeah, he's
a
dude,
beast.
He's playing really good too.
I know. I thought Chris Likes was going to be our best player by far, but
I've seen Raw Sports make some videos on
yeah, for
Isaiah
Wong.
Yeah.
He's a beast. I love Wong.
But back to the NBA. If you guys haven't heard, we were just talking about Joel Embiid and how he should be the MVP.
Could be the MVP.
I would say the only person that's comparing to him as a big man is Jokic, and Embiid is still beating him in every category.
Yeah, but it's not like
And
the MVP's a center.
It's not. But a 7-footer that can shoot a fadeaway jump shot and put up 35 each night in and night out.
He's the front runner currently, but
You're not going to find anything like that, especially when his team is losing without him. That shows a lot as to what...
Well, why don't we take LeBron out of the Lakers lineup and see how they do?
I think they would... Obviously, they wouldn't
mean,
be,
you
they
look
would
at-
struggle, but it's...
They'd be a 500 team. I mean, you look at Anthony
Yeah,
Davis'
they
teams with the
would
Pelicans.
be fine. LeBron is probably the best player in basketball, but that's obvious. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not...
Arguably, yeah.
He's getting older, first of all.
How about Curry in some MVP talks?
They're not good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're not winning with him on the floor.
Thanks to Draymond.
Exactly, and they're not. I feel so bad for him. Imagine being that good 4 years ago, and then just coming.
Yeah. Having the number 2 overall pick.
They're not. They had the number 2 overall pick. They somehow screwed that up with Wiseman.
I don't think they screwed it up.
I think he's a solid player for sure, but I definitely don't think he is.
He'll be fine. What do you think of Anthony Edwards? I'll ask you that.
Did you see his dunk the other day?
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
Lord.
He caught a body, bro. Lord have mercy. But I'll say this. Anthony Edwards was the other guy that I was forgetting when you brought up.
Best rookie.
Yeah,
It's
best rookie.
LaMelo.
Anthony Edwards, his team's terrible, and he's the
They're
only
always-
as a rookie. He's the only guy that they have, other than Anthony Towns, who plays 20 games a season. He's not hurt, or he's always hurt. Sorry, but he's not. He is. Anthony Edwards is a very, very good player. I really wish he had some help. I wish he had a better team because he would be getting.
I don't know what's up with them. They should be. I mean,
when you have to dunk on somebody for anybody to know
notice
your
your
name,
team.
yeah, notice your team. That's embarrassing, bro. I mean, he could drop 40 a night and he wouldn't be heard of because he didn't dunk on somebody or his team didn't
Or
win.
he plays for the small market Timberwolves who suck.
They're just not.
Same with the Pistons.
I feel so bad for
Like,
him because you couldn't have gone to a worse situation than Dallas or Minnesota.
I mean, like, same thing with the Pistons. Like, we don't even know who the best players on the Pistons are. That's how irrelevant they are.
We're going to talk about Tyrese Maxey a little bit. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to watch him. I really do like his game. I wish he saw more minutes. He's not seeing many minutes right now because he's playing backup to Ben Simmons, who doesn't need many rests, breaks, or whatever you want to say. Simmons is on the floor for maybe 35, 40 minutes a game, which is a lot for a point guard. So Maxey isn't seeing the minutes that he should be, I think. He has been seeing the minutes as of late because Simmons has been out these last 2 games. But I think if he has been able to see the kind of minutes that quickly, LaMelo starts now, so he's playing 44. He's playing the whole game.
As he should be.
Yeah, Maxey isn't. Maxey's probably playing 12 minutes max. So I really wish Maxey saw a little more minutes. I really think he's going to develop as a really good player for us. Down the road, especially, I think they're gonna. I love Shake Milton, but I think he's probably going to be dealt pretty soon. I think he's a really good, solid player, but he's also kind of taking some minutes away from Maxey. So we'll see. I think Maxey is a really good rookie. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I really just... This is our year. This is probably the best Sixer team that they, have had in a while and are going to have in a while. This year is probably going to have to be the year. I don't see... I don't see some of the guys that we have now, like Dwight Howard, who backs up Embiid.
Yeah.
Dwight Howard's a really good backup to
he is.
Joel Embiid. Dwight Howard's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
3-time consecutive defensive player in the year.
But he's not being asked to come in and play 20 minutes.
No.
He's being asked to come in and play 5, and 6, 7.
And he's solid when he does it.
Yeah, exactly. He gets boards. That's all he's really has to do. He tips back the ball, and he gets tip-ins or whatever. But he's getting older, and he's probably going to retire after this year. He's on a 1-year deal, I believe, anyways, and so he's probably going to retire after this year. That's why I'm saying, this is probably going to be the best Sixer team that we have in a while. Because you're not going to find a much better replacement for Embiid than you are in Dwight Howard.
How's Thibault doing this year?
Really good, man.
I like Thibault.
I do too, and I think Doc Rivers has really, came to realization that he needs to be on the floor more. In the early going of the season, Thibault was playing 10 minutes, bro, and only being used for defensive purposes. Yeah. If it came to crunch time and we needed to stop, he would be in, but other than that, and then he would be pulled out on the next offensive possession. But I really think Doc has seen that we can use him a lot more. So now Thibault has been in the starting lineup these last couple of games because Ben's been out, Shake's been out. So
I think Thibault's better than Shake. I think Thibault.
They play kind of different. Thibault's bigger.
Yeah.
Probably plays more of like a 3 or 4.
I think Thibault. I don't know.
Shake's 1 or 2.
I like Thibault a little bit more than Danny Green, honestly. I'm
too.
not a big Danny Green fan.
I like Danny Green because he plays defense.
So does Thibault.
Danny Green will hit the occasional 3 if you need it, but he's on the floor for one reason, and it's to play defense.
Yeah.
Thibault's a younger version of that, but Danny Green probably has the edge when it comes to shooting. So that's why he's on the floor more. Thibault and him basically split minutes when Thibault comes off the bench. They're both playing 22 minutes, 23 minutes a game. So, I definitely think that they need to keep giving Thibault the minutes that he's seeing. Like I said, this is make it or break it for them, I think.
I don't think it's quite that level, but I mean, you guys can have a run next year. I don't know the contracts on your team, but there's a lot of young players on that team. I think as long as really your franchise and your success comes down to one thing and one thing only, and it's Joel Embiid staying healthy. That's it. That's
I agree with that statement. I mean, if he were to ever get hurt, we would obviously see what happens. But
I don't think you want to see what happens.
I don't either. But they would still have Simmons and Harris and Dwight Howard. We just spoke about how good of a replacement he is.
Yeah, but it's not Embiid.
It's not Embiid, and he wouldn't. Right now, he's not playing 44 minutes like Embiid is. He's playing 5. So, I really hope we never have to see what life is like without Joel Embiid. I hope he's a Sixer for life, and I hope he stays as healthy as possible for the next how many ever years he has left in his career. He should be on lockdown, man. And it should never get to the... He's the same age as Simmons. They're not there's not going to be a drastic drop of success. There's just not going to be a drastic, they're not going to drastically just fall to the worst in the league. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think they're going to be pretty good for a long time. And as long as you can pair him up with somebody like Simmons and Harris...
People that can shoot.
Exactly. As long as you can pair him up with shooters, I don't think there's any reason to get him out of the city. Unless, we talked about how it's a respect thing for J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
They suck. The Texans are terrible. And like I said, I don't see the Sixers getting to that point when Joel Embiid is in a Sixer uniform because he's going to have Simmons and Harris around him. But if it were to ever get to that point, maybe that's when you say, okay, cut the cord. But other than that, I am never letting Joel Embiid step a foot outside of the city of Philly. Ever.
Yeah, he's a franchise player. That's that. And Simmons might be a bit of a different story. I don't know. He's slightly expendable, I think. He's a great player, but...
Great player who needs to really develop a jump shot. It's so...
Who had a jump shot in college?
I don't
had a
understand,
jump shot in college and in high
But
school.
I don't understand it. He works so hard to...
I don't know
From what you read...
that's what I was about to say. I don't know if it's a front, him...
But from what you read and, you always, read about how hard he's working on his jump shot. And the fact that he is literally too scared.
I think it's a confidence thing, and I don't know why. Just shoot the ball.
Especially when you're up by freaking 20 points, bro. When you're up by 20 points and you're still having Ben Simmons in the game, that is the perfect opportunity to shoot a 3.
Yes.
I don't understand why he doesn't. And until he does, he's going to be basically a one-dimensional player on offense.
He's going to be a slasher.
But
I mean, that's...
The only thing that's making up for his lack of three-point shooting is his defense.
He's, at this point in his career, he is a taller prime Rajon Rondo. That's not a bad thing at all. But he drives, he is an elite passer, and he plays really good defense. But he cannot make a shot to save his life. I
agree. And, that's why Simmons is... one-dimensional. If you haven't heard about Anchor yet, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free and there's no charge. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more music apps.
You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you'll ever need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started on your podcast today.
What's up, everybody? Now it's time for our call-in session on Early Morning PJ Podcast. So our phones are open for anybody and everybody that we actually know. So our first caller is going to be Connor Pushhart. All right, Connor, how's it going today?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm good, thank you. So what's your question?
All right, so recently the Sixers beat the Lakers and so did the Heat. Do you guys think that's a good, a positive thing or a big deal with them being the defending champs?
Go ahead, Jacob.
I think it's a big deal for us, more so because we've been on a skid recently, and this could be a turning point in our season. You know, getting back on the right track. Jimmy Butler's back. Everyone's healthy. The Lakers are a great team, and I think we're showing what we could be made of with everyone healthy.
I definitely agree with that. I would maybe say that the Sixers, it's a huge deal for them as well because that could possibly be a finals matchup. So we'll see what happens down the road, but I definitely feel like both teams benefited off of that big win. I think the Sixers won like 3-4 straight after that. So it was definitely a huge confidence boost. But like I said, I think the Sixers, that could possibly be a finals matchup, realistically. So, all right. Any more questions, Connor?
Yeah, I got one more question, but it isn't from me.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Jacob, what's your fascination with the University of Miami? When did that start?
Really, when I was 7 years old, my favorite animal was a dolphin. So then I liked the Dolphins, and then I just figured I'd like every Miami team off of that. And, you know, ever since then, I've been a diehard Miami fan in every sport except hockey.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with the number of Miami football players that have been arrested?
No, not necessarily. We're actually doing pretty well compared to other schools in Florida in that regard.
Oh, very nice, very nice. All right, and that's why you're getting a dolphin tattoo on your hip?
You know, we'll see about that one. I don't know if my parents would like that one, but, you know, we'll see.
All right, guys. Hey, long time, first time caller, long time listener. Appreciate you guys, everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that was our first caller of the day. So as you can see, that's kind of how it works.
Yo, PJ Podcast.
Hi, who is this that we're talking to?
This is Michael Coleman.
Hi, Michael Coleman. How's it going?
Great. What is your name today?
My name is Peyton, and you are talking to Peyton and Jacob on Early Morning PJ Podcast. What is your question today?
Oh my God, I made it.
Yeah, you did.
I made it.
Yep.
Mom, made it. So my question today is, what is your outlook on the Carson Wentz trade?
My outlook is pretty
All right.
Hey man, come on, take this seriously. This is a serious question.
Since Peyton's gone mental, I'll give you my take. My take is that I think both teams are going to come out as winners. You know, the Eagles get 2 good picks, and the Colts get a quarterback they can work with.
I agree with that. And, I mean, Carson Wentz, look, I think it was a pretty fair trade on both sides. I mean, the Colts got a pretty good player in Carson Wentz, and the Eagles got some pretty good picks, and the Colts have to eat their salary. So thank you, Mike, for calling in today. We appreciate that, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, sir.
See you, Mike.
Is this Jacob?
Yes, this is Jacob and Peyton. You are calling Early Morning PJ Podcast. Hi, Evan. What is your question today?
My question is more for Peyton Warner.
Okay.
I was wondering I don't know if you discussed this already, but I was wondering what you thought about how the Eagles are impacted by the Carson Wentz trade.
So,
if it's good or bad.
I'll be completely honest with you, Evan. This question has come up a lot. You are actually our third caller, and I think both callers had asked about the trade. So my outlook on it is the fact that I think it was a pretty fair trade for both teams, considering the Colts are getting a pretty good player in Carson Wentz when he's healthy, and the Eagles are getting some pretty decent picks with that first-round pick, that possible first-round pick that it could lead to next year if he plays 75% of the games. Hi, this is Early Morning PJ Podcast. Who are we talking to today?
It's Ben.
Is Ben Patton?
Yeah.
What's up, Ben? What's your question?
Who do you think's gonna win the NFC East next year?
Who do I think is going to... Who is that for both of us or for one of us in specific, considering...
That's your question. That's your question.
All right, so...
Go ahead, Jacob.
I don't know. This could be a loaded question. I really do think each team is coming into the season next year with some young talent. But I'll be completely honest with you. I think if Dak gets healthy enough to come back and they re-sign him and they figure everything out money-wise, I definitely feel like Dak and the Cowboys could win the division next year. Obviously, that kind of sucks to say as an Eagles fan. But
I agree.
yeah, I definitely feel like if he's healthy enough, I mean, they were putting up 40.
I think the Eagles are the worst team in the division right now, though.
I mean,
yeah.
I would agree with that, to be honest with you.
It could really be any of the 4 teams. If the Eagles have a good year next year, if the Giants or the Redskins, or excuse me, the football team find a quarterback, or and if Dallas finds a defense.
Yep.
I don't think it could be the Redskins.
Yeah.
I mean, they could definitely repeat. I think they're probably the favorites right now, but
Yeah, definitely can't be the Eagles. I think the Eagles are the only team that doesn't have it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I
think
agree.
Any of the other 3 could win it.
Okay, Ben, thank you for your question. We appreciate you calling in. You have a great day. Now we got another call with Paul Shook. Paul, what's your question today?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. What's up?
I was wondering your thoughts on the Carson Wentz trade and how you think he's going to do with the Colts O-line.
All right, well, you're actually like our 4th caller that has asked about that specific thing. So I just want to give, my congratulations to both parties in this trade. I really do think it benefited both teams. The Colts are getting a very good player, and the Eagles are getting some pretty good picks. But I think Wentz is going to be successful there. I really do. He's not going to have to drop back 40-plus times in a game. He's not going to, be hit as much as he is going to have one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in the game. And they have a really good rushing game. So I really do think he's probably going to perform at the highest level in Indianapolis because he has a really good offensive line and he's not going to have to drop back as much. Jacob?
I think Wentz is going to be really successful there. He's familiar with the coaching staff. They have a good offense around him, and I have him in my mock draft going more O-line in the draft, so I think they'll be set, especially with that offensive line and running game.
I agree. All right, Paul, any more questions?
Yeah, I was wondering your thoughts on Stafford to the Rams.
So, all right, we haven't discussed this much.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah, so I Stafford to the Rams and Goff to the Lions. Who wins that trade?
The Lions do.
In my opinion, I feel like it's the Lions because they're getting a younger quarterback and they're receiving some picks, I believe.
Yeah, 2 firsties and a 3rd.
I think the Rams. I think Stafford will somehow find a way to be good with McVay.
I think Stafford is an upgrade over Goff. That much is clear. He's a very good quarterback, and they should. I mean, they beat the Seahawks in the first round of the playoffs last year. I think they'll be even better, but 2 first-round picks and a solid quarterback is a very good return for Matt Stafford.
I agree. All right, Paul, is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for calling in.
Time.
Thank you for calling Early Morning PJ Podcast. Who are we talking to today?
Shrimp Daddy.
Oh, hi, Colin Shrimp. How's it going?
Pretty good. How about you?
We're good, thank you. What is your question?
I just want to know what you think the Eagles' future is going forward.
With the
With
Eagles.
Miles Sanders and
So I definitely feel like Nick Sirianni is going to bring more of a rushing attack into Philly. I think that's kind of going to give Hurts some opportunities to not have to throw the ball 40-plus times a game. And that's going to keep his legs a little fresher for when he has to escape the pocket and things like that. I definitely feel like the Eagles have a good enough offensive line that they can protect Hurts for long enough, or they have a good enough offensive line to run the ball in general. I mean, we talked about last week, if you tuned in, Colin, that Miles Sanders was the 2nd leading rusher when it came to yards per carry last year. So I definitely feel like if they can find a way to get him the ball more, they will be setting themselves up for a lot of success because with a young quarterback in Jalen Hurts.
yeah, they definitely got 2 studs on that team.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I mean, I think they're really young. They have a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to offensive line, and I think they just need they need to find ways to utilize that kind of talent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you.
Yep. All right, Colin. Is that all for today?
Yeah, I just wanted to call and say hi.
Awesome. Thanks, Colin, for calling today, and we appreciate it. We hope you tune in next week. Hi, thank you for calling Early Morning PJ Podcast. Who are we speaking to today?
Ryan Dalton.
What's up, Ryan? What's your question?
This one's to you, Peyton. I was wondering, who do you think the 3 best tackles, guards, and centers are? In
Oh,
the
my.
NFL?
Well, I'll be completely honest with you. I probably am going to be forgetting some on this one. I think the 3 best tackles in the league are, I would say Armstead. Who's that guy in the 49ers?
Trent Williams.
Trent Williams.
Trent Williams.
And this last one's hard because I really like Lane Johnson. I really like I don't know, man. I can't. Is Bakhtiari guard or
Tackle?
I'm saying Bakhtiari then. Those are my 3 top tackles, and then centers. I'm gonna go. Nelson's a center.
Now guard.
All right, guard then. We'll go with guard. Nelson.
Ryan, why don't you ask me this question?
Yeah, you should ask Jacob this question. He knows everybody.
Well, I want you to answer it, Papson.
All right. Well, I'm gonna say Nelson as guard, Brandon Brooks as guard, and I can't even think of some of these guys because I'm gonna be forgetting a ton of them. Jacob, who would yours be?
Tackles probably Trent Williams, Bakhtiari, and Ryan Ramczyk. Guard Quentin Nelson, Zach Martin, and Ali Marpet. And then center Frank Ragnow, Corey Linsley, and probably David Andrews.
I don't disagree with a single thing you said, Jacob.
All right, Ryan. Well, I'm going to try to put together a pretty good list for you. Here, I gave you my 2 guards. I'm going to give you some centers now. I'm going to give you Jason Kelsey. I'm going to give you Ryan Jensen. And I'm going to give you Pouncey. He's retired
now.
But I'm like, if you were going off of last year, I'm going to say Pouncey from the Steelers, Marquise Pouncey.
Okay, that's fair.
All right. Thank you for calling in, Ryan. We appreciate you, and we hope you call in again next week.
What up, Peyton?
What's up, Big D? Thanks for calling the Early Morning PJ podcast. What's your question?
How bad do you think giving Carson Wentz a big contract for the Eagles was?
Well, obviously it's pretty harmful right now. I mean, I'll let Jacob kind of touch on this too, but it's really unfortunate that you paid that guy so much money 4 years ago to be the franchise player. And if you let him go at any point during that contract, you're going to be eating a lot of money when it comes to signing bonuses and things like that. So I don't disagree with the trade at all. Because I think both teams it's a win-win kind of thing. I hate the fact that we're going to be eating about $30 million in signing bonuses. That kind of sucks. But
yeah, I mean,
you remember when you tried telling me that Carson Wentz was a top 5 quarterback?
You know what, Dylan? I do. And I'll be honest with you. Before this season, I really thought that he was. When you looked at his stats and when you looked at the kind of things he was able to do with the lack of weapons that he was given by Howie Roseman. He carried his team to the playoffs the last 3 years with absolutely nobody healthy for the full year. So I really did feel like Carson Wentz before this season was statistically, and I don't know if Jacob can agree or disagree here, I think he was literally statistically a top 10 quarterback.
Maybe top 20.
Go ahead, Jacob.
You know, with the whole contract thing, you can't really blame the Eagles front office for that because he was an MVP frontrunner before he tore his ACL, and they can't tell the future. But this happens a lot in the NFL. You look at the Jared Goff contract, he's gone. You look at Wentz's contract. I mean, this sort of thing happens all the time. You give a quarterback a huge deal because you don't have any other option at quarterback, and it kind of sinks your team. And the Eagles are going to be hurting the next few years giving out $30 million to someone who's not even on their roster. And
wait, Jacob, I have another question for you.
All right.
What makes you think that Chase is better than Smith?
I think Chase is better than Smith, really, when it comes down to it, because his style of play from college to the pros will translate better. Smith is going against, obviously SEC competition, but they're not all pro defensive backs who Smith is going to be going against. Chase's ability to be physical on his corner and go up and get the ball is going to translate better. And Chase, in his last year playing college football, was the number one receiver at LSU over guys like Justin Jefferson, over guys like Terrace Marshall. Smith really just broke out this year, and he had an amazing year, one of the best seasons ever in college football. But I think you take the consistent play and the production of Chase over the 1 year of Devontae Smith.
No shot.
All right,
the
Big D.
closest thing to unguardable. He was the closest thing to unguardable that we've ever seen. National championship.
Peyton agrees with you. I
I'll be
don't.
completely honest with you. I kind of agree with you.
Chase put up
but
almost the same numbers at age 19. That's all I'll say.
all right, Big D. Thanks for calling in. We hope that you call in again next week. Appreciate that. All right, so now we're going to get into our Instagram questions section. If you guys didn't see our Instagram a couple days ago, we put out a Q&A for some of our listeners. If they wanted to obviously ask questions, we would be answering them. So Jacob and I are going to start attacking these questions. Our first question of the day is from I'm Sam Streewig. His question was, who was the most underrated player in the upcoming draft class in the NFL?
My pick is someone who is not seen in the first round of the mock draft. It's Allie McNeil from North Carolina State. He is a defensive tackle, a nose tackle actually, who excels in pass rush, and that's something that's really rare to me. Is a defensive lineman, 320, 330-pound guy who can rush the passer at his level. And I have him going to the Patriots, I think, in the second round. He'd be an amazing fit there. I think if you told me in a few years he's one of the best defensive tackles in the league, I would not be surprised at all.
All right, so this question's kind of a loaded one for me, considering that there's three guys from my college team that I'm not trying to be biased by any means here, but I think Jacob can second this. Damar Hamlin, Rashad Weaver, and Patrick Jones are arguably second, third rounders. I think in many mock drafts that I've seen over these last couple weeks, Patrick Jones and Rashad Weaver are both going in the third round. Damar Hamlin's probably around fourth or fifth. The biggest underrated player for me would be Rashad Weaver. He is probably the best defensive end other than the guy from Miami, Ross, what was his name? Rousseau, yeah. I'm really not trying to be biased here. I think any college football fan that has watched the Senior Bowl or anything that has to do with college stats for defensive linemen would know how valuable of a player Rashad Weaver is. He is quick off the line. He has very quick hands. He has the ability to get off any kind of block. The Pitt has played some really good, obviously they're in ACC, they've played some really good caliber competition this year. And Rashad Weaver saw some guys that he's going to see in the NFL. When it comes to Notre Dame, Clemson, those kind of offensive linemen, those are the guys that are going to translate pretty well to the NFL, and he was able to have a really good year against those guys. So I definitely think Rashad Weaver is probably the most underrated player in this draft class when it comes to being snubbed, I guess, out of like the first or second round. So that would be my pick.
Very deep defensive end class also.
Yeah.
You know, you switch the order of a lot of guys, and people could go anywhere from the fourth to the first round, really, based on what order you have.
Exactly. So we also have a couple more questions for you guys. Our next question was from Connor Pushhart, who you guys heard from earlier on the call-in session. His question was, who will make it further, the Sixers or the Heat? I believe he actually asked that on his call-in session.
Yeah, something like that. You know what, you go.
I think the Sixers are going to make it further. I think the Sixers have more depth. I think they're going to finish better in the seeding, which is going to lead to an even easier tournament, I guess. I don't know. I really do feel like the Sixers, this is their year. The Heat were in the finals last year. They have a really good team. They basically have the same team as they did.
Without Jay Crowder, that one hurts.
Yeah,
but.
And Jimmy Butler is obviously one of the best players in the league. They're going to be a very successful team as the season comes to a close. I feel like they're probably going to finish around 4 or 5 in the seeding, as they did last year. But I really do feel like they're going to make a run. It's just, I think the Sixers are going to make a further run. That's really what it comes down
The
to.
Sixers are looking better right now, but we will see come playoff time because same thing happened last year. The Heat were the 5th seed, made it all the way to the finals. It's a team built for the playoffs, and we'll see how that goes.
Exactly. And so I appreciate your question, Connor. I appreciate you calling in. We're going to move on to the next question from Colin Morrow. He asks, how do you feel about Justin Fields' lack of field awareness and vision as he pre-selects targets? So I'm going to get into this one. He is going to be successful at the next level. I think there's no way around that. He's going to be mobile enough to escape the pocket when he has to. I think he's going to be able to throw the ball, on point, on accurate. He's going to be successful.
He is accurate.
He is accurate.
And he is fast.
He is, exactly. I think he has everything you would want in a quarterback in the NFL. If you give him any kind of targets like he had at Ohio State, which wasn't the best, but they were...
Olave and, I mean,
yeah,
that's good, but it's not elite.
Exactly. And there's some teams in the NFL that have elite receivers. I think if he gets into one of those teams with a good scheme, he's going to find himself having a pretty successful career. So we appreciate your... Go ahead, Jacob. He has one more point about this.
About your actual question about Fields' lack of field awareness, I don't think he has a lack of field awareness. Pre-selecting reads is a thing, but when you've only played 2 years above the high school level, I mean, people forget he committed to Georgia and sat a year. He's only been starter at Ohio State for 2 years. He still has a lot of work to do. That much is clear, but he has all the tools.
Exactly.
All the tools.
Exactly. So our next question was from CJ Nadzam. He wants us to have a LeBron or Michael Jordan GOAT debate. I think we both agree that Michael Jordan's the greatest
Alonzo
player of all
Mourning
time.
is the greatest player of all time.
But I really do feel like obviously Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I think it's Jordan.
Time. So we can't.
We're not really gonna do a debate because we agree. But
yeah, exactly. Our next question comes from Sam Smithnowski. He asks about the Steelers' future. Jacob, I'll let you start.
Worrisome, to say the least. I mean, obviously last year they had a good season. I wouldn't say a great season because they lost in the first round of the playoffs, but their salary cap room isn't the best. They have aging pieces on defense. They have sort of, I'd say, identity issues on offense. Is this Ben's team? Are they looking for another quarterback? Who's the number one receiver? Juju's a free agent. I believe Connor's a free agent.
Yeah.
Even still, they finished last in the league in rushing. The defense is going to be very solid for years to come, but they're only getting older. They need to patch some holes up on offense, I think.
The Steelers' future is going to come down to one thing, the quarterback position. I feel like they have some decent weapons on offense. They have Juju, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. Those are 3 pretty good receivers in the NFL. When you have Ben Roethlisberger, who's about 40 years old, he is coming to the end of his playing days. He can't escape the pocket. He's a pocket passer. And last year, they got eaten alive because they became a one-dimensional team that couldn't run the ball. Everything was through the air for them. And it's going to come down to, first of all, their quarterback position, that's up in the air. They don't know if Ben's going to come back. They don't know if they're going to have to draft a quarterback to come in or get one in free agency or whatever. They don't really have a quarterback right now if Ben wouldn't play next year. It also comes down to running the football. They don't really have a rushing attack right now. Their offensive line is old. They're not as young as they used to be. James Conner is probably as average as it comes to running back. I believe he's above average if he got into the right scheme. But he didn't have a very good offensive line last year, which kind of hurt him. So their offense is going to be a question mark. Defensively, like Jacob said, they're kind of getting older in the back end of their defense. Their secondary is getting older. I really expect them to target J.J. Watt in the free agency. this year to partner with his brother T.J. Watt. That would be a scary duo, but they're aging, so I think it's a pretty big question mark on both sides of the ball.
Could go either way.
Yep, exactly. So now we are going to go to our next question, which comes from Josh Walker, who asks, Davante Adams or Julio Jones?
Adams.
I would agree with that.
Look.
Right now.
Look.
Julio was as good, if not better, than Adams
2
when he
years
was
ago.
his age.
No, I feel bad saying this because Julio Jones used to be my favorite player.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been elite.
Always
Hall of
like
Fame-
a top 10 pick in
Hall-
fantasy.
Yeah, Hall of Fame receiver. But I think he might be exiting his prime. I mean, he was
for sure.
injured last year. You really don't see the same level of production, and Adams is arguably the best receiver in
For sure. And Davante Adams' ability to create separation with a double, maybe even triple team, nobody else.
Yeah, he's the best route runner in the league.
Best route runner
Smoothest
in the
release
league.
I've seen.
Probably the fastest, if not
Well,
probably
Tyreek,
one of the
but-
fastest, if not the fastest in the league. I definitely feel like at this point in time, Davante Adams is the better one of the two. He's the best
Correct.
receiver in the draft or in the league. Julio Jones, if you would have asked me that question when Julio was
in his peak, yeah.
in his peak, obviously Julio was a monster. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Julio was probably the better of the two.
At their peak, but
Yeah.
currently Adams is better.
Yep, exactly. Our next question comes from Drew Hess. He asks, J.C. Horn is J.C. Horn the next Jalen Ramsey? I'll let you start on this.
Not quite. He has all the tools to be a great corner in the league. He's fast, he's strong, press man corner. I mean, really the top 3 corners in the draft excel in man coverage, and that's what the league needs more of. If you told me he was the best corner from the class, I wouldn't be surprised. I think he has all the tools to be a great corner. Jalen Ramsey comparison, maybe not, but
I don't think anybody. I honestly, we talk about this a little bit.
well, I mean,
We talk about Xavier Howard, Jalen Ramsey, and
Jair.
Alexander a lot. We debate between the three of them who's the best. Jalen Ramsey is my favorite corner in the league. I think he's probably the best in the league. They're both really, all of them are very physical, and I think that's what J.C. Horn brings. I think his physicality is going to translate in the NFL pretty well against some of the best guys in the league. I'm interested to see how J.C. Horn pans out. Like you said, he's he has the ability to be a really, really good corner in the league.
He has the mentality,
He's
too.
the mentality, and he's physical enough. We'll see if that all translates, and we'll see what kind of defense he goes into, and what kind of schedule he plays. If he's going to a team that plays Tyreek Hill twice a year, we'll see. You know what I'm saying? Like, that all kind of determines what makes a really good corner. So, thanks for the question, Drew. We're going to move on to Colin Shrim's question. Colin also called in earlier today. He asks about the Phillies' upcoming season. Jacob doesn't know
I have
much baseball,
no idea.
so I'm
This
going to
is
have
all
to
you.
get into this one. The Phillies last year, years prior even, their problem was always the bullpen. Jason Weaver, who is our manager, he's sitting right beside me here. He's a big Phillies fan as well. He's kind of nodding his head. But they actually, this year, in the offseason, I was pretty happy and pretty content with the way that they attacked their bullpen needs. I feel like they got some bullpen help. I feel like signing Real Muto was a huge plus. I think that needed to happen. I feel like Harper and Hoskins are going to have, pretty good seasons like they did last year, but it's all going to come down to pitching. I feel like our pitching staff is pretty good. When you got Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, those two guys leading your way, I feel like that's a pretty good combo for the Phillies to get behind. Last year the problem was always if those guys left the game in the 6th or 7th inning, they would kind of be screwed because their bullpen would have to come in fairly early in the game to give them help, and they just didn't help them at all. They ended up hurting them. So their biggest problem last year was the bullpen, and they got some help this year. I feel like that's going to make or break them. But I really see them being a contender this year. I really see them being in the playoffs, maybe even a contender. I'll say that. Our final question comes from Mads.page. Her question was, what is our favorite experiences playing sports in high school? So Jacob, I'll let you get into this one.
Football's been fun, but really wrestling is what's brought it home for me. And you're shaking your head over there, but I mean, really the ability to go out and put yourself out there and compete on an individual level. It's only you out there. It is you versus your opponent. No excuses, no bad coaching decisions, no, controversies. You win or you lose. It's a combat sport. I mean, that's what I love about it.
I have never wrestled in my life. I've played baseball and football have been my two sports throughout my 4 years of high school, and nothing will ever top our football team. Being able to go compete with some of the bestest of friends that I'm ever going to make. These guys are literally going to be life friends. And being able to go compete with them was something that I'll always be thankful for. I really loved strapping up the pads every day at practice, and then obviously Friday nights. Friday Night Lights was probably my favorite thing of high school. So that
Making a podcast with your football teammates.
And yep, now I'm making my podcast with my football teammates. So that concludes our podcast today. We thank you all for listening. We appreciate you guys calling in and giving us some questions on Instagram and things like that.
Keep it up.
Yeah, please keep it up. We're going to be doing this every single week. Like the call-ins are going to be a weekly thing. Instagram Q&A is going to be a weekly thing. So please keep listening and giving us some really good questions. We appreciate that. Anyways, thanks for listening and see you all next week.